Good call. If everybody, if you got it signal, I'm going to record to my computer as well. So I've got that. So Ryan, did you have anything you wanted to say at the beginning?
Yeah, I guess just from my seat, this will be our third interaction, I guess, with Dennis for the group here. So, kind of the idea would be that we'd have some ongoing training, that we'd kind of keep the message going in regards to customer service and excellence and things like that. So, we've all got through the busy, hectic season, and not to say that our next 2 months aren't going to be busy as well, but it's just kind of a different speed. So, a lot of the messages Dennis will have today. We'll talk about customer service, and then we're going to go into some behind the scenes type stuff and some visual aesthetics type things that I think are pretty important in our off season. So yeah, I just hope everybody can come out of here, and there will be a lot of content. I hope we can absorb a few pieces here and there and just start to get it into our subconscious and start thinking that way and start moving that direction where we all know we're good. And I think I would agree with that. We are good, but what does great look like? And let's keep trying to work towards that. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what you have to say today.
Okay. And feel free if you want to mute yourself, Ryan, that's good. If you want to, put it, yeah, that's great. So yeah, I know you all are coming out of a busy time, and I'm going to be interested to hear any wow stories that some of you might like to share, a couple of you might like to share, but glad to have you back together. I'm sure again your head's been spinning for the last few months, but as Ryan said, the secret to this is, as good as you are, that there are always opportunities. There are always things that we can do to take things to another level. And to me, that is the sign of a world-class organization. The one that says, okay, look at how good we're doing. How can we take it to another level? So many times I'll work with organizations that there's little hope. There's very little hope that that they're going to be able to turn the ship around, but we give it a try. But you're ahead of the game. So just a quick overview of what the plan is for today's session. I first want to talk about the service maps. I got 4 of the service maps that were sent to me. And what I would ask is that when I call out the group, if somebody that was involved in that service mapping session would unmute themselves and just answer a few questions. And again, there's no right or wrong answers. I just want to get your thinking behind things and maybe give some input. And again, any questions that you have about the process. I did send, and I think everybody got it. I sent a tutorial, a video tutorial and a written tutorial on service mapping. And I saw that the video one, Ryan, just FYI, I saw that the video one has expired, the one that I sent you. So I will resend that to you, just in case people want to access it. Looks like we've got some more folks joining in. Those of you just joining in, we're just getting started. I haven't said anything brilliant yet, so you haven't missed anything. We've got Tony. Tony, it looks like Tony's there. Tony, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself, and Rochelle is already muted. Okay. So you're coming out of the busy season, the harvest season, and I'm hoping that somebody, and Ryan, you can chime in too, might have a wow story from the harvest season, something that you did or that your team did, that you would say this was something that wowed one of our customers. And so if you have an example to share, just unmute yourself and say, hey, here I've got a quick example. Here's what happened and here's how we handled it. That was a wow for our customers. Now you need to unmute yourself.
I don't have a specific example of a wow moment to a customer, but just a wow for the entire organization. My job, I deal with all the different branches and all the different departments, and seeing us all be able to work together remotely and send a customer from here to there to get parts and get them going back up and running as quick as possible is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And obviously I'm not in your business or your customer's business, but I have to believe harvest time, that quickly as possible statement is pretty important for them, and can create a wow. And the downtime and so forth, that would be I would imagine an emotional moment for your customers. Anybody else got a story or an example that they could share of something that is really something we did to wow a customer? All right. Well, as we go forward, I'm sure more and more wow stories are going to come out over the next few months. So what I would like to do is, as I said, I got some service maps. So I'm going to ask the people the groups that did the service mapping, just if they would share what they came up with, why they chose what they chose, and just a little bit about how they did the process, any challenges you might have had. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Danny, is my screen up? Okay. So if you remember, the service mapping was where you take a look at a process, any process that is either an opportunity to improve, because, we just need to get better at this, or it's a process that is so critical to the customer experience that you want to take a look at it. And the idea is first to map the process out through the lens of the customer. So as you're mapping a process, if at any point you get to a box and you say, okay, now we do this, you have to stop and turn that lens around and say, while we're doing that, what's the customer doing? And from what I saw on the service maps, you all did a really good job with that. Most of the steps that I saw were indeed through the lens of the customer. But that's a key part of this is, we tend to look at things through our own lens and our own processes. The purpose of this is to flip that around and seeing it from the perspective of who we're serving. Once you have that, then you look at the various steps of the process, and then you define what would a mediocre service experience look like or sound like, and what would an excellent service experience look like or sound like. And as you've heard me say before, the reason I say focus in on mediocre first rather than poor service is when we've given a customer poor service, we know it. Mediocre service, that's more of the sin of omission. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't enhancing the experience. And what I find is a lot of times at some of the steps, that's kind of what we're doing. We're just kind of, processing somebody through our system. And some of the steps may be excellent. This forces you to look at every step of the experience from the customer's perspective. And no matter how good you are, there's always the opportunities. So then you say, okay, at each of these steps, what would excellent service look like or sound like? So that's the framework that I usually use. Now, some of you did it that way. Some of you did it another way, which is fine. My main thing is do what works for you. This process works very well of, okay, what's the process from the customer's lens? Then what would mediocre and excellent service look like at every step? But let's go ahead and take a look. This is the Big R Parts team. So and you can see this, they didn't do it the box way. They did it in bullet point form. And what they came up with was what you see here. And I think this looked really good. The customer, because each step started with the customer. So can I get somebody from Big R Parts to unmute themselves and just kind of share how you did this? Did you pull your team together and so forth? It looks like somebody just got volunteered.
Yeah, Dennis, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, so me and my team, Bernie and Ross, sat down together and kind of day-to-day transaction, like from the price, kind of what it would be like in harvest season when it's really busy. So that's kind
Can
of
you move a little closer to the mic? Would it be possible to move a little bit closer?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of getting close here. We just kind of sat down with our team and went through what it would what a day-to-day call would look like right in the middle of harvest or seeding. Is kind of what we feel the customers need on a regular transaction.
Okay. And then, so did you pull the whole team together, or was it just a couple of you?
Well, there's only 3 of us in our
Okay,
bigger part team, so all of us sat down together.
great, great. This looks really good, the way you did this. And I applaud you for starting each section with the customer. That's the key thing. And then it looks like you picked 3 that you were going to define mediocre and excellent. So let me ask first before I switch to that. How did you end up choosing those 3 boxes or those 3 steps?
I'll try to remember what we did a while ago.
I know it was a while ago.
I guess it just kind of picked on some of the ones, the most important key items.
Okay.
Transaction.
Let me go ahead then. And so what you've done here, and I had a chance to go through this, very well done again. So one of the steps, the customer receives a call with a solution with options, mediocre service. It took me just a moment to understand that, but I got it. Mediocre service, we don't have the part, but we can order it for you. That's certainly not bad service, right? That's not poor service, but from a customer perspective, that's all right. You know, you're doing what I expected you to do. And then for excellent service, we don't have what you need, but we can check. And what is A&I?
A&I is like our aftermarket line. It's another company owned by John Deere.
Oh, okay. All right. And then is it Reman? Am I pronouncing that right?
Reman. So yeah, just remanufactured parts.
Okay. Other branches, other dealers, we may have a truck heading between stores to get to the part to you faster. This is excellent. This is excellent. And I think one of the things that is important to talk about with service mapping is when you define excellent service, there may be some things you come up with that you can't do every single time. And this may be one of them, that you don't have a truck available that can do that. But the fact that you are checking other resources is a step toward excellent. And the fact that you're saying we can do this sometimes, and that would be a big wow for me as a customer, that you've got a truck, you know, go in and get the part to you. So that's a great example. Let's go on to the another box. This step of the process, or the customer is notified that the part is in the next day. Mediocre service, we call or text the customer that their part is in. Now, to me, again, that's pretty good, you know, that you let me know that it's there. I didn't have to call you. But again, taking it the next step of excellent service, we can have the part delivered to the customer either, and I'm blocking part of my screen here, either by a part staff technician or by a salesman. How often are you able to do that?
Sometimes it works out, but I mean, we've got guys going in every direction every day. So if we have a salesman heading a certain direction, we'll send parts for them and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I imagine you get a pretty positive response from your customers when you do that.
Yeah, a lot of guys are happy with that.
Yeah, I would imagine so, because you're saving me time, and during the busy season, time is my main resource. So I really like this one. And then you did one more where the customer picks up the part and installs it. And mediocre service means we sell the customer the part and send them on their way. Again, that's standard, not bad, just what I would expect. Excellent service, we provide installation tips and tricks, and I really like that a lot, you know, because you know things that I do not know. And that's a wonderful opportunity to wow customers when they're learning from you. That is a wonderful opportunity. Recommend that one of our trained technicians install the part to provide the customer with better warranty. Again, I'm learning something from you, as well as collateral damage that should the part fail. And there's a little bit of a sales element to that too, that adds to it. But again, you know, these are the things that take that step from being, this is pretty much what I expected, to being, wow, this is beyond what I expected. So excellent job on this. So if I were you, which I'm not, but if I were you, what I would do is take the service map that you originally created and do the same thing with the other steps. Because at the end, what you would ideally have is that entire service map defined at excellence, every single step defined at excellence. So you've done a fabulous job here, exactly what I was hoping for. I think you really nailed it. So thank you for doing that. Did you have any challenges or anything along the way?
I think it's partly trying to get everyone together, sit down for 5 minutes and go through it and do it.
Yeah. That's always going to be the case, finding time to do it. But again, that's the commitment. When I see organizations that really take this to a high level, they're committed to devoting the time to it. And in the end, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's just dedicating the time to it. But you did a great job. That would be the next thing I would do, is just finish that service map out. Okay. So you can go ahead and mute yourself. Okay. Next one was Outlook parts. And so who do we have from Outlook?
That would be me,
Okay. How do you pronounce your name?
Riley.
Riley. Okay, Riley. So it was this was basically a customer just calling in to see if a part was available. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the outlook we took on it, ironically.
Okay. And is this pretty much the standard process?
Yeah, give or take a little bit.
Okay. So they're in search of a part. So they're waiting to see if a part is available after they contact you. Is that right?
Yeah, in hindsight, that was maybe bad choice of words on my part. But,
Well, no. Because the way I'm looking at this is a customer looking for a part that is not available, that you're going to have to order it. Is that kind of right, or am I wrong?
yeah.
Okay. Because that's a moment of truth, when a customer needs a part, but you don't have it in stock, you're going to have to order it. So I think that's, am I right with that? Am I reading this correctly?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So they're told that the part's going to have to be ordered. Now they're waiting, and they could be facing a downtime in crucial parts of the season. And I think that's very, very important to recognize that this is now an emotionally charged event. Then the customer receives the call when the part is ready, and the customer comes and picks up the parts or the part. So this is good. I like the way you've done it. And again, it's 99% through the lens of the customer, which is especially that facing the downtime. And then you did it a little bit differently in terms of more of a narrative of what would be excellent service. So could you you don't need to read through the whole thing, but could you just talk through your thinking here of what you guys did?
Well, like basically we just came up with scenarios where like maybe a customer is looking at like an older Model D tractor or something.
Right.
Something traditionally stock. We kind of looked at it and like, let's say they had a cracked windshield or something. In addition to just ordering the parts, grab weather stripping and hardware to go with that to make sure their application and stuff is just easy and all kind of there for them. And then
right.
Those moments can kind of lead to more of them wow moments, I guess, where.
No, you're right on. Yeah. I'll tell you, the thing that jumped out to me that I appreciated that you guys did was right in the middle of this narrative. It says wow moments are sometimes done in the little things by taking priority and ordering in parts the customer will likely need in addition to the main part that they're looking for. That's a real customer service win when you anticipate a need that the customer may have, and you advise them of that, or you have things in that truly will help them in the future. That to me just really jumped out of this. So the only suggestion that I would have, because you did a great job, is going back to this, just kind of off to the right or in another chart, define each of those steps at excellence, because the one with the downtime is very clear, but when the customer calls in search of a part, what would be mediocre versus excellent service? And many of the things that you had in the narrative would fall into that. Customer waits to see if a part is available or accessible, so they're waiting. What would be mediocre and excellent during that time period? So it's really taking this and spreading it out through this and having just the flow of, okay, this happens first. This is what excellent service would look like. This would happen. What happens next? This is what excellent service would look like. So the outcome is a flow chart that defines this process step by step at excellence. So I would say that's just the one addition that I would make to this, but I thought you guys did a great job with this. So thanks, Riley. I appreciate it. Okay, so we've got that. And then the next one was, I think this is Rosetown. Yeah, do we have somebody from Rosetown that can unmute themselves?
I don't think we do. I'm in part
We
of
don't?
Rosetown service, but wasn't
Okay.
involved with making this, so
No, okay, nobody that was involved in this?
no, he's on vacation.
Oh, timed that very well. All right, so here's what I'm guessing on this, and maybe somebody can help me, but I'm guessing on what they did with this approach. And again, there's no one right approach, but it looks like on the left-hand side of the screen, this is what the process looks like in a regular flow. And then it looks like what they did on the right-hand side was perhaps eliminate some of those steps and define what the step would look like, what the process would look like ideally. And then what they had is down at the bottom is a day later, the customer gets a follow-up call from the tech or admin to confirm that the customer is satisfied. So I think that's probably the way they did it. And that's not a bad way to do it. I would say it's easier to do the flow and then focus in on the mediocre versus excellent service. So what we ended up with this is really just one element of what would take it to excellent service down at the bottom of the right-hand side. So what I would say is take that old service map. I would eliminate the gets the wrong department because that's more of a judgment call. But take that flow and then define what mediocre and what excellent would be like at each one of those. So again, this isn't a bad way to do it. I think there's just an easier way to do it. And then this was from Outlook Service. Do we have anybody from Outlook Service? Alan, is that you or is that somebody else? No.
Yeah, Lyndon and Braden were here.
Oh, okay.
The guy that did this service map is gone on holidays at the moment too, but
Oh yeah, okay.
us here, so we're just kind of
All right. So this again, I will say there's no right or wrong way with any of these, but there's a few of these that, like the combine gets washed and loaded onto the truck that evening for delivery to the customer. That's kind of happening behind the scenes. The washed part of it and the delivery part of it is the customer receives their combine and the combine is washed. it looks great, the customer receives it on time, and so forth. So it's just taking, rewording this so that each step starts with the customer. And that would be very easy to do, to make that change. Just change the wording. That almost forces you to look at each step through the lens of the customer. So take what is already here, say, okay, we're going to start it with the words of the customer, and then you just have to reword it a little bit so it's through their lens. And then we'll go on to this. They did it also in more of a narrative way, which again isn't bad. But looking at each step of mediocre versus excellent service, what that eventually does is make sure that the whole process is delivered at excellence from start to finish. So the two changes that I would make on this, if I were in your shoes, is to reword the boxes so that each one starts with the customer, so that you truly are looking at it from their perspective. And then taking what you have here and maybe a few other things and defining mediocre and excellent service. I really like that last paragraph about having the ability to truck equipment to and from a customer's field provides wow moments. I like the word despair because that's what the customer's going through at the moment. But at the bottom, it says reviewing our service map shows us the steps we take to truly ensure our customers are being wowed. So the only thing I would add is now the next step is finishing off all those boxes with what would be mediocre versus excellent service. So this was, again, I applaud everybody who did it. For those who have not done it yet, please don't look at it as just an exercise for our calls. It really is, the purpose of it is, how do we make sure our key processes are delivered at excellence across the board? And it's a tool that you can use going forward. You can look at another process, then another process. These can be part of your training, as you onboard new people into your department. Here's how we deliver this, execute this process, so we're delivering excellent service to our customers every single time. So if you haven't done it, I really encourage you to do it. The people who have and that sent them, I applaud you. These are great. And my comments are just recommendations to take it to another level. Any questions or comments from anybody? Okay, so let's go on then. I'm going to switch back to my screen. Here we go. Ryan, if you could give me a thumbs up if you're seeing my screen now. Okay, great. So that was all around the principle of look at everything through the lens of the customer and using service mapping as the tool for it. The second principle that we talked back when we were all together in person was, I did that wrong, hit the wrong button. Okay, Ryan, could you give me another thumbs up if you're seeing my screen? All right. If you remember back, this was a phrase that I was hoping that you really embrace and that becomes embedded into the culture of the operation there, that everything speaks. Pay attention to the details because everything speaks. And I like this photograph. I think I pulled this off of your website, so obviously it's going to look good. But I do like this photograph that everything looks good there. Everything, the product is faced, and it doesn't look like there's any empty hangers there. And so from an everything speaks standpoint, I would say this is good show. That's a term that we used at Disney, either good show or bad show, and it connected to that idea of everything speaks. So to me, this is an example of good show. And obviously there's the other side of the equation. I showed this photo when we were together that I took at a hospital, that they could be the most expert in their field. They could be the best of the best in their field. But when you're walking in and you see this, and I'm hoping you're looking at the Pepsi can, that's a visual intrusion on that image that they would want to create. So this is the first thing that people see as they're walking in, is they just see that Pepsi can. And that may seem like a little thing, but it's not, because everything speaks. So is every detail enhancing or is it detracting from the experience? And in this case, obviously it's detracting from the experience. And I would say in most companies, most organizations, as employees are walking along and they see that can on the ground, most of them would walk right by it. They wouldn't, other people would probably kick it, but most would walk right by it. Everything speaks means no, that is an intrusion on what we're trying to create, and you go over and pick it up and throw it away. You take the responsibility that we're not going to allow that to diminish our brand. This next photo I just took, I was driving down to, I live in Orlando, Florida, and I was driving down to Miami, and I stopped at a rest stop that they had fast food restaurants and everything. And I was going to get something to eat before I continued on my journey. And I took this photo. And I don't like to say company names, and pay no attention to that. It looks like Burger King behind it. But this is the first thing that I saw when I walked in. So I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, is that no cash card. Oh, there's a line between a no cash card only. Is that an L or is that an I? So this is my first impression of the of this restaurant. And my understanding is more and more restaurants are now going to card only, not cash. So obviously this is a message that has been there for a while, and they have allowed this handwritten sign to be the point of entry for their organization. Now, did I still buy my lunch there? Yes, I did, but I didn't buy it there because of that sign. I bought it in spite of that sign. And that's not a good business policy. That's not a good way to introduce folks to this experience. And so clearly, if this is going to be their policy going forward, you create a sign that represents the brand that in a way it should be represented. Another time, because I do travel a lot, I'm in fast food restaurants, and I was at the drive-through of another restaurant, and I had already paid, and I was waiting for my food. I was waiting to pull up to the window where they give you the food. And I took this photo out the window of my car. And again, I don't just like to say company names, so pay no attention to the M's on the polls there, but this is what I see as I'm waiting. And to me, what this is an example of, which I think applies in your world, this is an example of backstage coming on stage. And every organization, including yours, there's a backstage. There's the things behind the scenes that it takes to run the business, that it takes to do what you do. But the customer shouldn't see it. The customer shouldn't be aware of it. And when backstage comes on stage, you put all this effort into creating this brand and you just whittled away. So somebody left that gate open and backstage came on stage. In my experience, and I still got the food, but again, it was in spite of versus because of this. And again, just another, I was doing a presentation, and it was at a really nice hotel, very, very nice hotel in Denver. And nice entryway, the check-in, the place was pristine. Got on the elevator, to the elevator was pristine. And when I got off of the elevator, this is what I saw before going to my room. So here they had this whole great setup coming in that was really aligned very, very well with their brand, and got off the elevator. And this was the first thing I saw when I took a left off the elevator. This was the first thing I saw. Backstage just came on stage. So this is the thing that I remember. You know, this is the thing that really jumps out to me. And so I went to my room, I unpacked, and I was going to go back downstairs at the hotel for dinner, and walked back out to the elevator, and that door was still open. So how many customers, how many guests of the hotel walked by that open door? And again, it doesn't destroy the experience, but it certainly does not help the experience. And so everything speaks. Backstage came on stage. This was bad show. I was getting into my car at a Starbucks one time, and there was some folks doing some work at a couple of locations down. They opened up the back of their work van, and this is what I saw. Now, I'm thinking from the perspective of the customer who hired this company for their expertise, and they look into the company, into that company vehicle, and this is what they're looking at. So it just, again, whittled away a little bit of the experience. So I thought, okay, you know, if I'm that customer that they're dealing with, the trust factor just dropped a little bit. And there was another one it wasn't the same van. It could have been the same van, but it wasn't. But this is another one that I took a photo from the other side of a work van, and they pulled in, went in, and this is what I saw on the dashboard. And I see this a lot in company vehicles. The dashboard seems to be the collection area of the trash. You know, that's where you're going to find the McDonald's wrappers and cups, and all of that is on the dashboard. For many customers, this is the first thing they see as you're pulling in. You know, as they're waiting and your company vehicle is pulling in, that's the first thing that they see. That's the first impression of that visit. And everything speaks, just whittled away a little bit of the trust there. You know, I would say backstage came on stage, and this is a great example of bad show. And it's not just a physical thing. And again, keep in mind, I know you're very good. I know you're very good. But sometimes when we're busy, it's very easy for what I call attitudinal backstage to creep on stage. And this is a stock photo. What I'm about to show you is a stock photo, but I know you see this all the time out in the business world, and I do too. You know, fast food restaurant, and you can tell just by the demeanor that that person does not want to be there. They do not want to be working that day. And that's attitudinal backstage, come on stage. And this is a pretty blatant example, but you can hear it sometimes when you're talking to a company on the telephone, just by the tone of voice, that somebody's they're trying to get you off the phone as quickly as possible. Or, you know, you walk into a business and there's two employees who are chatting with each other rather than taking care of you. They blame another function within the organization for a problem. Oh yeah, they shouldn't have done that. You know, they screwed that up. I apologize. When you throw one part of your company under the bus, you throw the whole company under the bus, because customers see you as one. And sometimes, you know, they'll badmouth their own company. And that to me is attitudinal backstage coming on stage. And again, it whittles away at the brand. The example I used when we were together, pretty blatant example, but was, imagine going to Disney World and you're in the park and your child runs up to Cinderella, and Cinderella turns around and she has a cigarette in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other hand, says, "Kid, I'm on break." You know, what would be the impact on your child? You know, but it doesn't matter how many billions of dollars they spent building the place, everything just collapsed at that moment. And it's not Disney anymore. You know, it's a rather than a magic experience, it's a tragic experience. And so from a company perspective, recognizing that everything speaks. So looking at it from my Disney days, you know, they've got a pretty beautiful place there. You know, they've got a castle, they've got the themed lands, they've got all the music going. But there's an operational side to this that most people don't see. There's an operation that goes on that helps to create that on-stage magic. So, for example, you can see here the repairs. This might be painting or repair taking place. That's a visual intrusion. And so with most of these things, other than a major overhaul, most maintenance, painting, repairs, and so forth takes place before the park opens, before the first guest gets into the park, because this is Adventureland. This photo happens to be from Adventureland, and a crane, operator, a high lift operating in Adventureland, that's not congruent with the theme of the area. So that would be a visual intrusion. Below the Magic Kingdom, and some of you may know this, below the Magic Kingdom, there's a whole tunnel system that operates underneath the entire park. And because of that, that's why you don't see any delivery trucks in the park. You don't see the employee or cast member cafeteria. You don't see the wardrobe department, deliveries. That all takes place underneath, so that on stage, the magic is there before the park opens. So usually it's about 2 hours before the park opens. The custodial team sprays down all the walkways in the park to get rid of any trash, any lingering leaves and so forth. They spray it down before the first guest comes in, because we want the park to be show ready. And that's a key term that goes along with Everything Speaks that I would encourage you to think about, is that you want the operation to be show ready, not just when the first customers come in, but throughout the day. So it takes that mentality of, what does show ready mean? What is it? What is, and what does not being show ready means? And when you get that mentality, when you start thinking about that, it becomes pretty obvious. And we even took it another step where, like when I was working in Fantasyland at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, that was the submarine ride that I first started working on. Every ride, every store, every food location, an hour before the park opens, somebody walks the location or rides through the ride with a checklist to make sure that each element of the facility is show ready by the time the first guest comes in. And then throughout the day is making sure we maintain that show readiness. It's everybody's responsibility. So one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do between now and the next call, and this won't take a long time, but it's one of those things to get everybody in that Everything Speaks show ready mindset. And I'll send a template of this to you, Ryan, that you can distribute to everybody. That's a little bit longer than this, but here's how it works. Just like with service mapping, you come together as a team and you have this template. Actually, usually I just use a flip chart or a whiteboard, whatever is available. Draw a line down the center of it. On one side, you put Everything Speaks distractor. On the other side, you put Everything Speaks commitment. And the discussion to have is based on what our role is in parts or in service, whatever it is. What are the potential Everything Speaks distractors, physical and attitudinal, that could take away from the brand, that could take away from the experience? So again, from my background, they create Disney World. If there was trash everywhere, that would be a distractor. But it's a reality of the business. Like in your world, trucks get dirty, company vehicles get dirty, but it's a distractor. It's one of the things that can take away from the brand. So you come up with a list of distractors, and you want to have a mix of physical and attitudinal distractors. The attitudinal one is like the smoking Cinderella situations, the rush sound on the phone, employees talking together rather than taking care of a customer, etc. What I would encourage you to do in doing this workshop is come up with at least 10. What I find is once you get beyond 10, you kind of start making things up. But and a really good way to do this is to actually walk through your location, you know, from start to finish, and just together say, what are those potential distractors, or what are those distractors that are already there? You know, what's backstage coming on stage, but actually do a walk through like a customer would and identify what those potential distractors may be. So once you have that list, and again, usually I find 10 is a good number, then one for one, what's the Everything Speaks commitment that the team needs to be committed to make sure that distractor does not occur, or at least that we're minimizing the likelihood of it. So with the trash at Disney World, then one of the Everything Speaks commitments is, as an employee there, it's your job, and it's non-negotiable, that if you see a piece of trash on the ground, you go over and pick it up and throw it away. Again, and it doesn't matter if you're working on the rides or you're the vice president of marketing, you know, you go over and pick it up and throw it away. And interestingly enough, the number one compliment that Disney World gets, and you may remember this, is how clean the place is. That's the number one compliment they get. Well, the reason is that's everybody's job, to make sure that the place is clean. So what I would ask you to do between now and our next call, and I'd like again to have Ryan send these to me, and Ryan, I'll send you the template for this, is just to complete this template. But again, don't look at it as an exercise for our call. Look at it as a tool to, okay, let's make sure we're always show ready for our customers, even during those busy times. Let's make sure that we're always show ready. So that's what I would hope would happen between now and then. If you do a service map, if any other groups do a service map, I would love to see those. As I said earlier, one of the when I work with organizations that really take things to another level, the service mapping tool is one of the key tools for that. But I will send you, Ryan, the new link for the service mapping video because it expired. I'll send you that. And I will also send you this template for the Everything Speaks discussion to send out to everybody. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Ryan, are we at a time in the year when, I know you're getting to CMI time, but is this a time in the year when people will be able to do this?
Yeah, certainly. I think it'd be a good exercise. I was kind of just Carl and I were talking on the side here too, and it might be a good opportunity. Maybe the service people could walk the parts department, and the parts department could walk the service department, and kind of, you know, get out of your own box a little bit and see.
That's a great idea. Yeah. No arguing. Yeah. It's if people point things out, but sometimes you're right. Sometimes it does have people outside of your own operation to take a look with fresh eyes. So I think that's a really good idea. Yeah.
I think your comment too about, you know, when a customer walks up and there's a couple employees talking, it's maybe not just an aesthetics thing. I think there's some other things that we can look at too when it comes to that, how we behave. And that.
Yeah, I would encourage, and sometimes behind counters, and I'm not quite sure how your layout is, like in the parts department, but sometimes behind counters, that's where things accumulate. You know, and customers can, they see that. And again, it's not a deal breaker, but it's not helping your brand. It's not adding to your brand. So it's looking at those little things that we may not always pay attention to. And so that's the point of doing this, is take the opportunity to pay attention to those details. Anything else from anybody? All right. Well, thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing those Everything Speaks charts, and good luck during CMI. I know that that you're going to be doing a lot of work coming up. All right. Thank you, Ryan. I'll be in touch with those materials.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dennis. And yeah, thanks everybody else for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.